So, earlier this morning, Ganyu's rerun got announced alongside the actual rerun Archon, Kokomi, and the first ever Dendro 5-star, which honestly I just now realized that he's being added to standard. That's cool, I guess. I thought this would be a perfect time to discuss if Ganyu is still a very good unit and compare her to Ayaka. Short answer, yeah, she's still ridiculously good, and I do think she is better than Ayaka. I honestly think that Ganyu is such a ridiculously good character. Her charge shots have such a high multiplier that the time it takes to charge it up is the only thing that somewhat balances her. Ganyu is very flexible in terms of team comp. Personally, I think her best team comp is a melt team to amplify her own damage, and freeze teams are also very good for crowd control. Both teams are very, very strong in their own ways. A really good thing about Ganyu is just how consistent she really is compared to a lot of the other main DPS characters, which is why she's on top of a lot of tier lists. If you're going to run a melt team, the amount of damage that you will be able to do if you melt her charge shots is consistently high. Although the strongest variation of melt Ganyu can be very expensive, there are many workarounds to this, such as replacing Kazuha with Xiangling, who is also a top tier sub DPS that everyone has access to. The best thing about this team is that Ganyu doesn't need to worry about energy issues because the rest of her kit will interrupt a lot of her reactions, so it's best not to use them anyways. And as much as I don't like freeze teams, I know, ironic because haha, my channel name, Freezing Effect, they are one of the most consistent teams out there because of the crowd control it provides. It can bring so much breathing room that you technically do not need a healer or a shielder, but they are still really nice to have. And that's not all. Even though her DPS is insanely good, believe it or not, she can be a great support character or sub DPS. The only character that stands out to me as a off-field cryo sub DPS character is Rosaria because of what she can bring. And Ganyu can apply cryo off-field but in a much bigger area and do really good damage at the same time. Now, this leads me to compare both Ganyu and Ayaka, two of the strongest cryo DPS characters in the game. The main thing that separates the two characters for me are consistency and flexibility. And Ayaka's dash. I just really don't like her dash. Like I said before, Ganyu has a much easier time fitting into more teams than Ayaka. Even though Ayaka freeze teams can be just as strong as Ganyu's freeze teams, I often feel like that's the only team Ayaka is really strong in. The main reason why is obviously because her burst is broken as hell. You can run Melt Ayaka, but the downside of that is her burst will literally never reverse Melt consistently because of how fast it applies cryo, and if you don't run her in a freeze team, her burst can push enemies away from it and might even miss more often than you think. And trust me, it feels terrible when you miss your burst. You can make the same argument for Ganyu missing her charge shot, but it's honestly not as punishing as Ayaka missing her burst, since she can quickly charge another one, or just aim near the floor so the bulk of her damage doesn't miss. And she doesn't really rely on her burst nearly as much as Ayaka. That's why Ganyu doesn't have many energy problems compared to Ayaka. This brings me to my other point of consistency. Ayaka has such high scaling that she can do her burst DPS job really well, and I mean really, really well. The problem I have with Ayaka is that when her burst runs out, what else is she gonna do? Even though a lot of fights in Genshin occur in a short period of time, I feel like the damage she can do outside of her burst feels really weak to me. It's nice that she has very good cryo application outside of her burst, but I just don't feel like it does that much compared to what Ganyu can do. It is nice for freeze teams though, I will admit. The one thing that Ayaka uses really well over Ganyu is the addition of Shenhe. She can basically triple the amount of damage your cryo characters can do for a certain amount of hits. Correct me if I'm wrong, but Ganyu's charge shots take 2 out of however many stacks Shenhe has from her skill. This means that she will quickly drain through the buff Shenhe provides a lot less efficiently. The reason why Ayaka can use Shenhe's buff a lot more effectively is that she can increase Ayaka's already ridiculously high multipliers to do even more damage, and this honestly makes up a bigger percentage of her damage than you might think. And since Ayaka's best team is in a freeze team, Shenhe can easily fit as a second cryo unit. But this doesn't mean that Shenhe is bad with Ganyu, because that would be factually incorrect. My opinion is definitely biased, but overall, I value consistent DPS and flexibility over high DPS. However, even though I do think Ganyu is better than Ayaka, they both are ridiculously good in their own ways. One thing I can see happening is that both of them could possibly be overshadowed in the near future because of Dendro when it releases next patch. And as you guys might already know, Cryo and Dendro do not have a reaction together, like one-to-one. So depending on how Dendro reactions might interact with Cryo, I think it might or might not overshadow both Ganyu and Ayaka when Dendro gets its new time to shine. I could be wrong about this because there has been theory crafting done already with all the leaks, so take what I just said with a huge grain of salt, but in the end, you should pull for whoever you want. The video isn't meant to persuade or dissuade anyone from pulling the characters they want. This video is just my thoughts saying that Ganyu is still such a great unit and why I think she's better than Ayaka, but not by a large degree, by no means. Anyways, thanks everyone for watching. Feel free to let me know what you would like me to talk about in the future, especially since Sumeru is around the corner. Remember to like and sub if you haven't to help out the channel. Have a good night and day wherever you're at. Good luck to everyone saving for Tenari, Zhongli, Ganyu, and Kokomi. Peace and take care.